How much Qigong should I do each day? That is going to be the topic of this episode of Qi Life. So this is one of those kind of how long is a piece of string kind of questions, in that, the answer really depends on a lot of context, a lot of different factors. But I'll try to talk about a few of those different factors that might influence how much Qigong is good for you to do each day. Now, a lot of this is going to come down to, well, a couple of things: your personal circumstances, and also your goals, your desires, your aims, what it is you're hoping to get out of your Qigong practice. If you're just starting Qigong, often it's good to start with just a little bit every day. It might be as little as 5 minutes or 10 minutes for a couple of reasons. One, you're just getting started, and you're taking in new things. You might not have adjusted your schedule or routine to be able to allow you to do, a lot of practice. And by doing a little bit regularly, you'll start to notice more beneficial results than you will from doing a lot intermittently. And so finding a simple practice that you enjoy, that's within your current capabilities, is going to be really good if you can do that every day, or even, it doesn't even necessarily have to be every day, but most days. So you're getting a regular practice, you're going to notice those benefits start to accumulate, and you're going to start to really appreciate the value of your Qigong practice. Another reason why it can often be a good idea to do just a little bit of Qigong practice regularly to begin with is because one of the sayings I'm fond of, which you've probably heard me say on this channel a few times, is that energy work is real work. We often don't, or certainly when we start doing a practice like Qigong, we often don't fully appreciate the level of work being done, because we may think, oh, I'm not doing anything too physically strenuous in terms of moving my body in a way that's tiring my muscles out too much or anything like that. But we are often using our muscles to some extent, but gently. But we are also stimulating other aspects of how we function in ways that they may not be used to, getting aspects of our energy flowing. And much like our muscles, if we do start to work with our muscles, if we work too hard, too quickly, this can strain them. It can just tire them out too much so that you're not able to continue effectively. Or two, you can actually give yourself like a little bit of a strain or an injury by doing that, which is actually going to hold you back from your progression. So, an example of this would be if you're, wanting to start running, and you go, right, and the first day you go out and you do a marathon. Your running for the next period of time is probably not going to be very good. In fact, you might do yourself some real harm, which might mean that you can't run for quite some period of time if you injure yourself because of pushing yourself too hard, too fast. On the other hand, if you start with, just a little bit of running, in fact, you might not even start running, you might start walking, and then do some walking and running, just for a short amount of time, and then you extend that and you run more and build it up little by little. You can build up to doing the marathon, but it's something you progress towards. To some extent, this same principle holds true for Qigong. Doing too much too soon, going too deep into a practice can cause some problems. Fortunately, Qigong is overall very safe, but that doesn't mean that it can't cause some issues, and so we should be aware of that. Energy work is real work. There's real effort involved, and we do need to allow ourselves time for our body, for our energy system to develop, to adapt, and we can build into things gradually. All right, so that's one consideration if you're just new to Qigong. In other situations, you may want to practice more. And particularly once you've maybe been practicing Qigong for a little while, maybe you've learnt a few different practices, you've adapted to working with your energy, and you want to do Qigong practice to just maintain your health and well-being and, the balance of your energy. You don't necessarily need to do a lot of Qigong to do that. Again, as an analogy, running. I'll stick with that one for now. If you're wanting to maintain just some basic overall cardiovascular health and fitness, you don't need to be doing a marathon every day. You don't need to be doing sprints every day. You don't even need to be running for an hour every day. That would be a lot of running, right? Every day for someone who's just wanting basic health and well-being. Someone who's wanting to just stay, healthy in terms of running, healthy cardiovascular fitness, even just running for 20 or 30 minutes, well, every day, or again, not even necessarily every day, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week, that's actually going to do a pretty good job of maintaining that cardiovascular health and well-being. Similar for our Qigong practices. For just maintaining overall health and well-being and balance, you can have a really fulfilling, enjoyable, beneficial Qigong practice in maybe 20 or 30 minutes. And if you do that every day, that is a great recipe for keeping everything nicely balanced, nicely flowing. And again, it might not even be every day. It might be 3, 4, 5 times a week. And that's going to be really good to keep things balanced for you. So that's another situation, how much Qigong you might want to be doing. Moving to another situation, you might be wanting to go deep into understanding some particular practices, to really study them, really understand them, really let them become ingrained into your body, into your energy system, so that your understanding goes beyond intellectual, but you have a physical, energetic understanding of those. When you're doing this, often you'll spend more time on those practices for a period of time. So, for example, in the certification courses, the online certification courses that we run as part of Long White Cloud Qigong, we give as a recommendation for people doing those courses that they should be looking at doing about an hour and a half of practice every day through that course. Now, of course, they may miss some days here and there. That's not really a big problem. But basically, every day spending about an hour and a half on their practices. Sometimes that might be just focusing on one practice. Other times it'll be spending a portion of that time on one practice, a portion on another practice, and a portion on another practice. And we do that over a space of about 4 months. So they get a significant period of time of consistently doing these practices and gradually, little by little, exploring, experiencing, unlocking their understanding of what's going on within those practices. Because of course, as well as the practice itself, they're also being supported with study materials, talking about the principles, demonstrating different things, asking questions and discussing things and so on. And so having that focused practice for a period of time where you might do a lot more than you would otherwise do in your sort of daily life is really useful for gaining a deep understanding and really embedding those into your system. So that doesn't necessarily mean an hour and a half. An hour and a half works in terms of the format of the courses, that it gives people enough time and experience for going into enough detail during the course to really understand the practices. Depending on what you're working on, that might be more, it might be less, depending on the practices and what you're aiming to achieve with them. Once you've then understood those practices well, really ingrained their principles, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to need to keep practicing them to that extent, all the time, because for one thing, you might then want to go on and learn other practices, in which case you're going to need to put a similar level of focus into those, and you doing twice that much or 3 times that much as you learn other practices is going to quickly become unmanageable, right? But once you've embedded and ingrained them, you'll find that those practices, you can then easily go back to them. You understand the principles now, that you have them embedded within your body, within your energy system. You can then go back and do a relatively brief practice and draw out and draw on those principles very easily. And that might then become part of what you do for 20 or 30 minutes every day if you're just looking to maintain your health and well-being. So moving on beyond this, another thing that could affect how much Qigong practice you want to do every day is what you're aiming to achieve with that practice. Again, if it's just general health and well-being, 20 or 30 minutes a day might be plenty. On the other hand, if you're, for example, wanting to use Qigong practice as a way to recover from a particular health condition that you may have, sometimes as part of that, it's useful to actually do significantly more practice. Now, the same principle we talked about to begin with applies here in terms of building that up gradually. Suddenly doing a huge amount of practice all at once is, entirely possible. That may not be desirable. But it is something that you might start with a little bit and increase and increase and increase until you may be doing several hours of generally quite gentle Qigong practice, but a lot of gentle Qigong practice, so that you're getting, in a way, it's like you're giving yourself a lot of medicine, gentle medicine, but a lot of it to allow your body, allow your energy system to respond to it until such time as it starts to create changes and you start to recover, in which case you then may scale it back, back to just a maintenance sort of level. But yeah, particularly in therapeutic application, sometimes you may, particularly for serious conditions, you may want to do a lot of Qigong practice. But again, starting relatively small, building it up so that you don't exceed your capacity as part of that. Another sort of goal or aim someone may have could be to develop some specific skills. And so by this, I mean going beyond simply understanding a practice and, becoming comfortable with it and its principles for balancing things out, but developing specific skill with your energy. Historically, as I've mentioned, I'm sure multiple times in this channel, historically Qigong was applied to three main areas, one being health and well-being. So we've already talked about maintaining your own health or even improving your health from a particular condition, and that might mean doing more practice. But another application is actually using the skill that we develop with energy as a form of treatment for other people. And in order to develop that skill, well, it is a skill. It generally, some people have more of a natural talent than others, of course, but generally it requires practice to develop that. And so as part of developing this skill, again, you may want to spend more time on those practices to develop. Again, you can compare this very much to other types of exercise. Someone who's wanting to get really strong, they're going to spend more time lifting weights and lifting heavier weights, or doing calisthenic exercises or so on. Or someone who's wanting to be able to have great endurance, they're going to do a lot more of that sort of endurance training. Similar, if we're wanting to develop a high level of skill, we may spend more time doing that. And so that's for healing application. A similar thing applies through to the other historic applications of Qigong as well. So one of those was health and healing. Another is, martial arts, but connected to that is high performance of any sort. And then also spirituality, different aspects relating to spirituality. And if you have specific goals, specific things you're wanting to develop within those areas, this may sometimes mean doing a lot more practice in order to achieve them. And this will be different for different people. So again, maybe back to the analogy of a runner, someone who wants to run for health and well-being, they might run 20, 30 minutes a day on a quite regular basis. That's enough. Someone who's sort of wanting to be mildly competitive, maybe enter into some social, running events or competitions, maybe a 5K, 10K sort of race or something like that. They might do more. They might run for an hour several times a week, and that's enough for them to achieve their goals. Someone who's wanting to be a top class athlete, they're going to spend a lot of time training, not just running. They'll be doing running, they'll be doing other types of exercises and all sorts of things. They might spend 20, 30, 40 hours a week. Again, probably not just on running because that would wear them out, but across all of their different training activities and recovery activities as well, in order to really achieve that peak. And so a lot of this is, what level you're wanting to develop to. Because even within those other areas of, like martial arts application, you can get to a good level doing a moderate amount regularly, which will be, to a lot of people will be really impressive because it's more skill than they have. But to get to a very high level might require quite extensive training for an extended period of time in order to reach that. Similarly with the more spiritual type of application, one of the things that comes from working with our energy is it does open up aspects of our perception. A lot of this is very, very subtle, but little by little it can open this up, it can develop it. And even just doing a little bit of Qigong gradually opens up this perception. But if we're really wanting to focus on this, we may spend more time, put more focus on it, as a way to develop this. And there's specific practices we may do as part of that, which could lead to us wanting, to practice several hours a day as part of developing some of these abilities, I suppose you could say. For all of this, though, again, moderation is important. Problems with Qigong, when they do occur, typically occur from someone too single-mindedly, maybe even fanatically, pursuing after a goal or something that they may have in mind, without taking time to just take a step back and have balance and moderation in their approach. And this is where they may practice too intensively, where they may practice incorrectly because they're pursuing it so strongly, so single-mindedly, that they don't notice where things may not be working well in their practice, or they may not seek out all of the guidance and supervision that would be helpful for them. And that's where the problems tend to occur. So while sometimes that, really extensive or sometimes intensive types of training, of practice are useful for developing some of these specific skills, it's always important to have balance, moderation about this, and not pursue that to the sacrifice of all else, and not without due care, due caution. Something that you build up, that you get guidance, get supervision of, to make sure that you do it in a healthy way. Again, in a similar way to a top athlete, if you're doing just running, more gently, just for your own health and well-being, it might be helpful to get a little bit of advice here and there, but you probably don't need a lot because you're doing something at a very basic level. Even at a moderate level, a little bit of coaching could be helpful. At a top level, it's generally going to be really useful to have a lot of coaching, a lot of someone or even several people looking at what's going on, helping you to identify what you need to fine-tune, what you need to correct in order to avoid injuries, avoid problems, and help you get those peak results. Same sort of principle applies to Qigong as well. All right, that's a little bit of an overview for you as to how much Qigong you should practice in a day. It's going to be really different for different contexts. My overall recommendation is start small, start simple, and then build it up as you feel the benefits, as you feel it's enjoyable, but always keep a little bit of perspective. Qigong can be fascinating. It can become a big part of your life. It's a big part of my life. But helpful to recognize that the point of Qigong is to support us in living, rather than to dominate our life and get other things out of balance in our life. So you always want to keep that in mind. Okay, I hope that's been helpful for someone. I look forward to seeing you on another one soon.